What is up, everybody? It's your boy, DFS Up North, here with DFS Army, and we are back, baby, with another Four Thoughts PGA pod this week, kicking it off for 2022 for the Players' Championship, the unofficial fifth major. Let's go. As I said, welcome back. I've been off. This has been a break for me, man. It's been a while since I've done one of these PGA videos. I get busy, NFL, right? So usually we once that season ends at the end of August with the Tour Championship, we take the fall swing off for making these videos. I'm still providing content at DFS Army for all you guys, but I get a little break in the winter. I do some coaching. I do some other things, and but now we're back. It's March. We are here. It is the Players' Championship. It is the unofficial fifth major of the year, and I'm fired up for it. I'm excited. Four Thoughts is back. We changed up the format a little bit this year. I'm just going to give you all the goods. We are really going to talk through every single week what my plays are, who I'm playing, what we're doing, what our strategy is, right? We're going to give you a little recap of how the week before went, talk a little bit about, what we're looking forward to in the future, and really break down the course, break down the plays, give you guys everything you need, try to get you out of here in 30 minutes, because here's the deal. I know, I'm like you. I don't got an hour and a half. I got kids. I got 3 kids under the age of 6. I don't got time to listen to an hour and a half podcast. I only got a 3-minute drive to work, right? So I want to get you guys what you need in and out, explain some of my process, for those DFS Army VIPs, right? What I'm doing, why, maybe I'm talking about some guy in the notes and our cheat sheets, talk about the cheat sheets, do all that, get you in and out. Like I said, Four Thoughts. Here we go. We are back. I'm so fired up. I'm so fired up for this. Let's get back into it, right? So we got the Players' Championship, right? TPC, Sawgrass, JT winning it last year. This is the unofficial fifth major. But before we get to it, let's talk a little bit about coming over to DFS Army. Those of you who aren't VIPs, you are listening right now, maybe you're on the fence, right? Like, what do I do? Maybe you've been with Awesemo, maybe you've been with Fanshare, maybe you've been with Fantasy Golf, but I don't know, RPS, right? Anybody. They all do great work. Why do you want to come to DFS Army? I'm going to tell you right now. The number one is the community, right? Our Discord, like, everybody talks about community, but really we've got guys who have been here since like forever ago, right? Like before I came, and I've been at DFS Army for 4.5 years now, right? People stick around for the community. All right. Content. Here's the deal. Everybody provides content. Everybody provides you something. They give you an angle in. There's all sorts of different stats for golf and whatever. But at DFS Army, I think the thing that takes us from being any other content site to a next level content site is that we teach you how to win. I'm not just saying, hey, here's my tool, or here's who I'm playing this week, which I think is important. I think every site should do that. But here's why. Here's how you can go about making your player pool. Here's how you can use our tools to help you win. All right. And we're going to get into a little bit of that today, because something that I've done recently is I've been really trying to hone my 20 max strategy. So how we build lineups for contests where you can only play 20. I feel like that's a really good entry point for people into MME. I've been doing this a long time. I found that that's a little bit of my sweet spot. 3 max is probably my sweet spot, but how I play 20 max, I think, is really, like I said, I think that's sort of my sweet spot. 150 is a lot for me. Some people are really, really good MMEers. Geek is excellent. Bobby Klink's excellent at MME. Taco, excellent MME at 150. For me, I got to know my strengths, right? And something that I've been really trying to hone in is my process there. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today, because it really paid off for me last week. If you can see right here on the side, took it down for 1K. I took 1st, 7th, 5th, 22nd, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy that I went through to get that here coming up. So code Up North, 10% off for life. If you're not already a DFS Army member, what are you doing? Get in. So the Players' Championship, one of my favorite events of the year. We play at TPC Sawgrass at the stadium course. One of my dreams is to play there one day, hit it into that island green at 17. It is a par 72, 7,256 yards, not super long. It's a Pete and Alice Dye design. I stand on that. I am an Alice Dye stan. I think that Alice Dye should be in the World Golf Hall of Fame. She was an excellent golfer in her own right. And if you know anything about Pete Dye, you know that she was heavily, heavily involved in all of his designs. And she is actually the person who created the island green or gave the suggestion to Pete that, hey, let's do an island green here. So if we ever play a die design, and in my notes, I almost always say Pete Nallis die design because she doesn't get enough credit. But it's a classic Pete die. There's varying lengths of holes. There's no real one skill set that is going to be, above and beyond really help guys here. Like, it's not a bomber's course. I think it's more of a ball striker's course than anything. It's not a course that you necessarily need to putt on. You can putt on and win well, but there's tons of bunkers. There's tons of water in play. And you really got to be on your game, and even more so this week, because as we're going to talk about here in a minute, the weather is going to get nasty. But I love these courses that we come back to every year. They got that major feel. And what we found here is that even guys that have won or dominate here, we look at course history sometimes. TPC Sawgrass is not necessarily a course history course. Guys who have done well here have come out the next year and struggled because the margin of error is so thin on a lot of these holes that you miss it just a little bit right, you miss it just a little bit left, you could be in really, really big trouble this week. Greens, Bermuda, overseeded with POA. They're almost 100% POA at this point in the year. This event, if you are looking at some of the stats, like in our research station, maybe some other site, you need to remember that up until 2018, this event was played in May, Mother's Day weekend. So when Matt Kuchar won, I believe when Siwoo Kim won, right? Some of these guys, Ricky Fowler won in May. But the last couple of years, we've had, Patrick Cantlay, Webb Simpson won in May. Rory McIlroy and Justin Thomas both won when this event was hosted in March. The year 2020, this event was canceled due to COVID. I believe they played one round. Our boy Hideki was in first place. Christian Bezuidenhout was in second. And then they pulled the pin on us when I was winning everything in GPP. So that's the way it goes, right? But the course itself, we look at some of the history here, right? +1 average cut line, -13, the average winning score over the last 10 years, average driving distance, 278. So on tour, it's about 284, 286, somewhere in there. So it's a little bit lower. And the reason being is that guys will club down quite a bit here, meaning that they're not going to hit a ton of drivers. All right. So maybe a guy that is a little, it's hard when you look at driving accuracy stats. They're not always, if driving accuracy really was the end all be all, we'd play guys like Zach Johnson every week, right? But we know that the length that you hit it down the fairway, even into the rough, makes a big difference. Less so on this course. Just the dog legs, the trouble out there is that you're going to see guys hitting a lot of 3 irons. You're going to see guys hitting, 3 woods. You're going to see some of these hybrids off the tees. Even our big hitters, right, who do get that advantage, are going to be hitting a little bit lower of a club. And because of that, they're going to be able to hit more fairways. So you might look at a guy's stats and say, man, he can't hit the broadside of the barn. He's 50% of the fairways. Well, at the end of the day, when we come here, that average is going to go up, right? So +1 average cut line. The one thing that you really, really need to do well here, though, is that you will have at 7,250, that's not a super long course, right? You're going to have a lot of 125 to 150 yard shots, more than most on tours. The higher average is in that area. So lots of these wedges into fairly small greens, 5,500 square feet. Not, last week at Arnold Palmer, we were looking at 7,500. It's going to be a little bit lower this week. So we're going to really try to focus on guys who are good wedge players. And at the end of the day, what we've kind of found is when we look at what the former winners have done here, right? So Justin Thomas led the field in strokes gained tee to green. Rory McIlroy led the field in strokes gained tee to green. Siwoo Kim, second in strokes gained tee to green. Webb Simpson, a little bit of an outlier, led the field in strokes gained putting. Webb had a decent week tee to green that week, but if you guys remember back to, I believe it was 2018, the guy just made freaking everything. And he's an interesting character. We'll talk about him when we get to kind of our notes here, but leading the field in strokes gained tee to green is huge. And a lot of these guys didn't putt very well, right? Rory, Justin, Siwoo had a decent putting week, but Justin for sure last year barely gained strokes putting. So what that tells me is that you, as long as you can ball strike your way around this course, you're going to be in good shape. You don't necessarily have to be a putter. You just need to get an average week with the putter. That's hard for some guys to do, right? So we're looking for guys that are average putters. Now, here's the big trick this week that's really concerning to me, but at the same time, I think people are going to overanalyze it, all right? And that is the weather. All right. We look at the weather Thursday and Friday. If you go to Windfinder, you can use the Jacksonville Beach location. I think there's a beach actually that's a little bit north of that if you're looking, but we're seeing wind gusts decent on Friday. But here's the big issue. Lots and lots and lots of rain. Air temperature 66, 72. Not bad. But I mean, we're talking a good, half inch to an inch of rain on Friday, and it's the same thing on Thursday. All right. So it's going to rain. We are going to see rain on the first 2 days. Typically, that would soften up the course, right? We would see the course get soft, and we would have guys being able to fire at pins. The difference is that at the players here, they have this precision air system in the greens, meaning that they can suck all, basically vacuum all the water out of it. Problem is that it's not instantaneous. All right. It takes some time. According to their course superintendent, takes about 3 hours, which is faster than the sub air system that they used to have in, but it takes a decent amount of time to get that water out of there. So if there's a delay for rain, that is going to mean that when they come back out, we're going to get that they're going to be sucked out. They're going to be fairly dry. If they play these guys through the rain, then we're gonna see these greens be pretty soft and guys be able to fire at pins. And the way that it looks is we're gonna have to play through some rain. So for me, I just want guys who strike the ball well. I just want guys that are going to be really good strokes gain approach. Less worried. I think that if it does get soft in the fairways, we're going to be able to see bombers kind of hit fairways and not worry about the run out, which means that maybe guys don't necessarily club down as much. Here's the bigger issue though. Saturday, gusts, 41 mile an hour, 46 mile an hour, 32. Okay. Now we see the temperature, right? A little bit of rain, half an inch at 7 a.m., quarter of an inch at 10 a.m. And then watch this temperature. Boom, 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 getting low. As that goes into Sunday, we're going to see temps in the low 40s, high 30s, right? It's going to be really, really cold. We are going to get the gamut of weather this week. Warm, rain, humid, windy, cold, right? So who can withstand those elements is going to be the biggest factor, all right? The wind on Saturday, people are going to panic about this. At this point, like, that's so far in the future, right? Like, we're looking to get a six through to begin with, right? Like, I don't honestly, like, Saturday is going to be a mess. We'll worry about it for showdown, but at this point, like, who cares, right? We can't get invested in the weather that it's going to happen on Saturday morning, right? Because I just want to get my 6 golfers there to start with. So it is what it is. The weather's the weather. We're due a bad weather week. I think that we'll likely see a Monday finish this week, which is interesting. We haven't had that, especially in a major type event in a while. So it's gonna be intriguing with the weather there this week. Okay, so this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about, was a little bit of my 20 max process. So we talked about winning last week, right? And I had a pretty decent week. It wasn't the worst week in the world, but it was a pretty good week for me. But here's the deal. So basically, what I've been doing in my 20 max is I've been doing what's called a core cascade. So I build 3 main lineups. All right. So 3 just core lineups. And sometimes guys are in 1, sometimes guys are in 2. I think my player pool last week for this 20 max was 26 players. All right. Which is kind of right in the middle, not super high, not super low. And I had 5 guys miss the cut. We had really, really high cut numbers last week. So that was good, right? 21 guys that made it to the weekend. But basically what I do with these lineups is so what I'll do is I put my main ones in, and then as you can see here, I won off every single player. So this lineup was the lineup that won for me. Victor Hovland, Terrell Hatton, Gary Woodland, Christian Bezuidenhout, Chris Kirk, and Taylor Pendrick. That was what took down this contest. Also, if you notice, this did not take down the big $3 max. This was I'm always waiting for those secondary contests to come out, typically on Wednesday night. Players Week might be Tuesday by the time that they get to the secondary contest if stuff fills up right away. But I'm always waiting for that, and the reason being is that I want to have a better chance to win, and the lower the entries in there, the better chance I have to win. This lineup in the big one would have won $750. So I'd have been $250 short, right? So basically there's my winning lineup, right? Now, if we look here, this is the exact same lineup, but there's one guy difference, right? So Will Zalatoris was in this core, but my one swap from Zalatoris at 9,400 to Hatton at 9,300 was what got me there, right? This lineup right here, same exact lineup. Now I'm just missing the bottom guy. Pendrith was out for Ryder. This one, I swapped out Bazoonhout for, or not Bazoonhout, I swapped out, who was it? Kirk for Cam Young, who played really, really well. Did he outscore Cam? Nope. Kirk outscored him by 9. This one here was Tringali. Missed cut, right? This one here was Rory at the top instead of Victor Hovland. So that was like that core that rolled through, right? This was another lineup. This was actually, my core lineup here. This was one of my main lineups. Only won $5. This is one I entered in single entry too. But Zalatoris, Fitz, Leash, Mitchell, Kirk, Hostler. And then you look down there, I swapped Hostler for Pendrith. So basically, I'm just hammering a couple of guys. So my ownership was, a little bit high on a couple of guys. Like Zalatoris was in 2 of my cores. So his ownership is going to be 50-60%, which I'm fine with because I'm just trying to get leverage on the field. I can show you at another time how to actually go in and set up your lineups. But basically, I just build 3 lineups. I go in and I click, this one's going to be in 7 times. This one's going to be in 7 times. This one's going to be in 6. And then typically I whatever guy in that third one that only has 6, if I have somebody that's really high ownership, that's the guy that I'll take out, and I'll just pick one guy that I don't swap out of that one. But so this has been my process, and I've been kind of honing and trying to figure out where I'm at. But I really, really like that core. It's called a core cascade. I have my core lineup, and then I cascade one guy off. So if you were to look at it in Microsoft Excel, it would look like there would be a cascade down the line because I'm just swapping one guy everywhere else down the line. Stole this from Rick Run Good. He runs it a little bit differently than I do, but this is what I found has worked for me, and I love running 20 max like this. It's a ton of fun. And when you hit, you hit. When you don't hit, you don't hit. It's good. And then what I do is those core lineups that I have, those 3 cores that I have, I feel really good about them. I don't play a cash lineup. What I'll do is I'll typically just play that core lineup in cash games, right? So I want to just, I want to cover my butt. So let's say I played $100 in, of these, I played, let's say my total for the week was $200, right? Well, I want to play 3 lineups in cash for maybe 150 so that, I don't really necessarily strike out, right? And if they all hit, we're in good shape too. But sometimes the difference between that lineup hitting and, just cashing is a couple of points, right? So I want to, increase my odds of winning something back and hitting those either double ups or, 50-50s. Even head to head, I'll play those 3 core lineups in. So that's kind of my process of how I'm going about and playing these 20 maxes. I'm going to do it again this week. Somebody asked, maybe if you get in the early one and the next one, I would play 6 different core lineups. That's fine. You don't have to, but I like building lineups and I like the idea of, okay, this lineup's really chalky. Now I'm just one-offing a guy, right? That's maybe super low owned, right? So whether it's that Sam Ryder at 3%, because this lineup here was super chalky, right? 23, 20, 16, 23, 14, right? And then my one guy down here, boom, 3%, right? And that's, again, it allows me to feel good about, okay, I'm smashing the guys that I really like, but now I can get I slide in somebody that, hey, I think he's got a ton of upside and maybe isn't going to necessarily be super high owned, and it can make this lineup unique enough to be in the nuts. And that's really what happened with that top lineup with Hatton. Hatton wasn't owned barely at all. I had tons of Willie Z in there. Willie Z S the bet on Sunday, and that Hatton lineup climbed to the top. And honestly, this would have been a way better week. I actually had first, second, 5th, 7th, and 11th on those lineups at the top, but when it ended up with Hovland not getting it done for me, it was kind of the end of the road for that lineup. Okay, let's take a look at my cheat sheet for this week. It's an early week. We got the pricing out early, so I was able to get this thing out here right away for you guys. And those of you who aren't DFS Army VIPs, you can see this is kind of what my lineup's set up like. You gotta ignore the ownership projection and the DK and the FD projections right now because we don't have those in yet. Our research station typically comes out about Tuesday, but I was able to kind of craft my lineup based on what I know, what we've seen. We can obviously we have access to data elsewhere, but so once that research station is up, those will be populated. So I want to go through and obviously I break this down in my core tournament plays, elite players with high upside that I'm heavily invested in, my core cash plays, then I just kind of go through the top, the middle, talk a little bit about, hey, where I'm going, maybe guys that I'm not super excited about playing. I might have them in there too, just to give you guys my reasons, go through the 7K, the bottom guys. Now, again, this is more than 26 guys, right? This is my entire, for 20 max, maybe my player pool isn't everybody. Even if for 150 max, so my player pool probably isn't everybody, especially because there's some guys in here that I'm just not going to, I might say that they're at 5 or 10%. That's my, not my anticipated exposure. That's my recommended exposure. Yeah, and I actually going through, I made this yesterday. There's a guy here that I'm thinking about getting a little bit more of now after looking at some stuff. So one of them would be, Hideki Matsuyama. I'm not excited about playing him, but I think that he is definitely higher in play for me this week than I originally anticipated. This whole top of the 9K range is actually really intriguing to me, but we'll get to that. So my core this week, let's talk a little bit about that. So my 4 core golfers that I'm going to be heavily exposed to this week are Collin Morikawa, Matt Fitzpatrick, Alex Noren, and Chris Kirk. So Morikawa, I think he's probably the lowest owned guy above 10K, which I love. Maybe not. I'm seeing a little bit more Twitter love for him lately, so maybe he comes in. I don't care. Honestly, I want to be heavily exposed to the guy above 10K that is going to be the lowest owned. That's a goal for me every single week, is that I want to be over the field on whoever above 10K is going to be low owned, just because that guy is typically, obviously they're priced about 10K for a reason. These guys are studs. They can absolutely play. So for me, I want to get exposure to those high-end guys and get leverage on the field there. So typically what ends up happening is I got to take a guy underweight. So for me this week up top, it's probably going to be like a Justin Thomas. I love JT. He's playing great, but he's trending towards really, really high ownership, right? So for me, I'll probably be under the weight there. I'm going to push overweight on Morikawa. I'm going to push overweight on Rahm. And I'm going to try to get overweight on Rory too a little. But yeah, I love Morikawa this week. He makes so much sense here. I'm not worried about the 41st last year here. He's arguably the best tee to green player in the field. Has played well on die courses, right? 8th at last year's Kiowa, which isn't a great course comp, but it just shows that he can play on these courses where, because Pete Dye, what he does is he messes with your brain, right? He makes you think that something's there that's not, right? Or he makes it look like, hey, you can hit the ball here and it's going to be fine, and really there's a runoff that leads you into the shit, right? So he's shown that he can do that. I'm going to try to be way overweight. Like I said, I'm Morikawa here. My goal is to try to play a lot of heavy stars and scrubs lineups this week. So what does that mean? I want to get like 2 guys above 9,500 this week in a lot of my lineups. With the soft pricing, what people are going to do is they're going to basically just shut their lineups down at 7K. Right? They're going to get down to Chris Kirk, who I love, and they're not going to go any further. Right? I think there's tons of value below there. I think there's guys with tons of upside that are going to come in at low ownership because of the soft major pricing. Oh shit, I can play Paul Casey at 7,500. I can just kind of hammer this 75-95 range. And yeah, so I want to try to force myself out of that middle range and really kind of hammer the guys at the top and the bottom. Because I think the guys at the top have enough win equity that makes sense. And then the guys at the bottom, I think, have enough top 20 equity, for lack of a better term, like a Keegan Bradley, right? I love him this week. So for me, I want to try to play a couple of those guys. Then, I dropped down here. Obviously, I just want to keep Morikawa as a core play just because he's my favorite play above 10K. Then I wanted to share some of those 7K guys that I like, especially guys that I think you're going to go a little bit under owned. Fitzy, man, right back to the well with Fitz. I love this kid. Really, really strong at the iron, at the API. 9th here last year. He hits a ton of fairways and greens, which I think is massively important here. He's super cheap. I think he goes a little under owned here just because of who he's priced around. And with the course conditions looking like they are, it's going to play tougher. I think that falls right into Fitz's game. He's not a guy who's going to win if this plays to 18 under. That's just not what his game is, right? We get this at 10, 12, 13. I think Fitz is right in the mix. I love the price tag. I think he's super cheap on Fanduel too. I love the 9,700 there. Super overweight. I'm going to talk about Chris Kirk first. The guy's got a Freddie Couple syrup swing. He's played really, really well here in the past. I'm not overthinking it. He's going to be chalky, whatever. I'll play him. He's just such a good play. Love him this week. But the guy that I think is the GPP winner this week that's going to make a ton of difference in lineups is Alex Noren. I think in events like this, where you have a soft style pricing, right? Where you're getting guys like Adam Scott and Paul Casey in those mid 7Ks. I think Webb Simpson's in there, right? He might be hurt. We need to see his media this week, but you're getting these elite upside guys at low prices. You got to make a stand on somebody that's going to be low owned, right? Especially if you just want to play those guys too. So the guy for me this week is Alex Noren. Been playing so well. I think he's going to be lower owned, just outstanding golf. And he's heading to a course he's had some success at. He really should have won success at. He should have won here when Siwoo Kim won in 2017. He led the field in strokes gained tee to green that week. He had an uncharacteristic bad putting week. Lost 5 strokes putting, shot -4, Siwoo won at -10. That's a rare thing for him. He would have at least been in the hunt. I think he finished 10th that year. But this is a great fit for him. He played outstanding at the Honda. Outstanding. I really think he has the chance to be the nuts play this week. I've bet him to win already. I think that he is in great shape to win. I am all in on Alex Noren this week. I know a couple of guys are in the industry as well, which makes me a little nervous that number is going to climb a little high, but it just makes too much sense here. Cash court, right? So if I'm like I said, I don't play a ton of cash, but I just try to pick the guys that I think are going to be A, high owned, and B, are just really solid plays. We know Kirk's going to be high owned. I think Homa's been so solid lately. I love him. Answer, another guy. He's steady. Not going to win probably, but he's probably not going to miss the cut. I like Daniel Berger a lot at this price point. I talk about the stars and scrubs lineup for GPP. If I'm playing cash lineup, I just want to hammer this middle tier, right? Berger, Answer, Homa, Kirk, right? Now I got 70. I can play Paul Casey. I can play Adam Scott. I can play whoever, right? Really like that. So as we kind of go through here, Rahm, McIlroy, Thomas, Hovland, you can't go wrong. You got to get exposure to all these guys because all these guys have a ton of win equity. All right. I don't have any, I'm not going to tell you something that you're not going to know already, right? Rahm's the best player in the world. He switched his putter. He looked better this week. He could come out and dominate. Rory's been a stud here. He struggled a little bit on the weekend. Really struggled with his irons. I think that he crushes Pete Dye. He's great, right? Thomas, defending champ, back-to-back top 10 finishes. You can't go wrong. I think if I'm going to play cash and I can get up to Justin Thomas, he's the guy that I want. Hovland, man, pissed it last week, but he should have less issues around the green here, especially if it plays a little bit soft. He should be able to fire at pins. They're all great plays. This range up here, though, that's where I'm very intrigued by, right? Really intrigued by this, Cantlay, Dustin Johnson, Xander Schauffele, Deki Matsuyama, Cam Smith. What's the ownership going to be like up here? Because I think that I don't think it's going to be that high. So I'm really interested in hammering in some of these lower owned guys, especially if it ends up being Cantlay. If Cantlay at 9,900 is 10%, I'm pushing 30 easy all day on Cantlay there if he does that. I think you go right back to the well with Scotty Scheffler. He's looked great. Don't love Jordan Spieth. Zalatoris, man. Can't make a 5-foot putt, but I think he's a good play. Talked about Berger. As we keep going down here, I really like Brooks Koepka. Missed out on this event last year due to injury. Looked really strong at the Honda. He's starting to gain strokes, tee to green, and that when you start to show signs like that, especially with a world-class player like Koepka, we're going to get him at 8,600 or 10-4 on FanDuel all day, baby. Love him. I think people forget about Big Tony here. I think he's priced appropriately just given his current form, but I think there's upside here. Don't love Neiman, don't love Sungjae. I think Horschel's fine, but I really like Shane Lowry. Really like Shane Lowry. Will have no problem playing in the conditions, although he did lose when he got a monsoon last week or 2 weeks ago at the Honda. But this price is just way too cheap. So here, if I had to pick a couple of guys in the 8K range, I'm going Lowry, Koepka, 9K range, probably Cantlay and I don't love DJ coming off his bachelor party. Probably Cantlay and Deki in the 9K range if I was going to pick two. As we go down to the 7K range, I'm interested in Sam Burns. He's shown some life here. He played really well on Sunday in the bad conditions at the API. We talk about Birdie Burns, but he's been great in Florida over his career. Decent POA putter. I'm interested in Sam Burns at this price tag. Hatton playing great golf. He just sucks here. We talked about Answer, Homa. Woodland, I think, makes some sense. Almost won us a lot of real money by winning there. I think he's interesting. Casey shot 83 on Sunday, which is intriguing. But the guy I really like down here, I really like Corey Connors. I think that he's, led the field in strokes and tee to green last week, finished 11th. Can't putt to save his life, but we've seen guys win here before that do that. The other guy I really like is I like Cam Young, but it is his first time here. I like Taylor Gooch. I like Taylor Gooch a lot. He's just got great game, man. 5th year last year. Obviously, everybody's gonna look at that, the finish last week and forget that he was leading the field at strokes gained tee to green before Sunday, and then just he fell apart on Sunday and couldn't putt with the win. So really big fan of Gucci Mane there. Lanto, I think, is interesting. Knox, they're all fine. As we kind of go down, some of the guys that I'm really intrigued by below 6K, right, are guys like Keegan Bradley. Outstanding tee to green lately. Played really well in the wind on a Sunday at the API. He's just been playing really, really well for a while now. He's got good history here, doesn't miss cuts. As scary it is, I think he's cash viable. He was close to a core play for me this week. Really like Keegs this week. I think another guy that maybe doesn't fit the mold, but I've been playing him every week, and it's trending in the right direction is Mackenzie Hughes. We know he's an elite putter. He's going to make everything he looks at. The iron play has really been coming around though lately. So I'm really high on Hughes. I think that if he can strike the ball well, he's going to be in the mix. He's played, well at tracks similar to this. Some cheapy guys, Munoz, Pereira, we're like a month removed from Mito Pereira being 9.5K. Now he's 6'7" in obviously a strong field. I really like Taylor Pendrith. Bo Hostler, I'm going to go right back to the well with. I think that Dylan Fratelli is one of my favorite cheapies. JT Poston has placed T22 here back-to-back years. He's intriguing. I think he could play Zach Johnson down here. He's just got great history. So those are some of my favorite cheapies. Again, I think that it's an interesting week, right? Like there's a lot of information that we probably need to see as the week. For me, it really comes down to, what the ownership is going to look like. And that's something that, you got to come back to DFS Army for us. We'll have our cheat sheets updated with ownership, projections, all that stuff. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Like I said, I am super excited for this week. It is early. We're recording this on Monday night. We got a couple of days to get ready here. I'm like already getting ready to start build lineups. Bryson, for those of you who maybe haven't paid attention to the news, we got Bryson has WD'd, Kevin Na WD'd today. We might see a few more come in. But yeah, it's this is the Players Week, baby. Here's the other tip of advice I have for you guys though right now. Masters is coming up, right? There are tons of satellites right now for Million Makers, for World Fantasy Golf World Championships in the lineup. That's, I say you got to wait till Wednesday to start doing your GPPs. Find those secondary GPPs. Those are much better, smaller fields, easier to win, but start signing up for those satellites right now. Get in, get some tickets, right? That's a fantastic way to be able to say like, hey, I get to the Masters and I'm going to fire 40 lineups in the Million Maker and it might only cost you $100, right? That's insane, right? That's insane value. So there's a bunch of good ones up there. Get involved, get those tickets, rack them up so that we can have some fun and maybe somebody can take down a Million Maker for the Masters. If you're not a DFS Army VIP, again, hit me up. Find me on Twitter at DFS Up North. I can get you set up. You can use that code Up North. It gets you 10% off for life. Come be a winner with us. All right, guys. So have a fantastic week. Hit me up in Discord. Let me know if you got any questions. I'm looking to help. Have a great week. Awesome players. Cheers, boys.